The federal government says rapper Pooh Shiesty is simply too dangerous to be out on bond.
Pooh Shiesty was on a meteoric rise, grinding his way up from the streets of Memphis as an independent artist, chasing a dream most only talk about. And then, out of nowhere, he landed a deal that was anything but ordinary. This wasn't just another business agreement. It was a bold declaration, a powerful endorsement from one of the most influential, respected legends in Southern rap, paired with the distribution clout of one of the biggest record labels in the world. Suddenly, the spotlight was blinding and the stakes were sky high. Shiesty himself opened up about why joining Gucci Mane's label felt like the perfect move. He said, "I don't know who else I would go to. Ain't nobody coming at me like WAP. It just made perfect sense." Those words spoke volumes, and they weren't empty hype. The chemistry between this rising star and his mentor immediately translated into action. To celebrate the signing, they dropped a collaborative single that announced to the world, this was more than a business deal. It was a bond, a mentor-protege relationship unfolding in real time. For a moment, it felt like history in the making, like the beginning of a legendary chapter in Southern rap culture. The impact of that partnership was instant and electrifying. Gucci made sure Pooh Shiesty was featured on key projects like Key 1017, and especially on the So Icy Summer compilation, released in July 2020. That particular release was Shiesty's official national introduction, the moment when countless new ears tuned in and took notice. Their collaboration momentum kept building, with tracks like Still Remember and Who Is Him, proving to the world that Pooh Shiesty wasn't just an up-and-comer, he was a force on the rise. Then, on November 6th, 2020, Shiesty dropped Back in Blood, featuring Lil Durk. This track wasn't just another song, it was a breakthrough. It rocketed up the charts, becoming his highest charting solo effort, with a peak position at number 13 on the Billboard Hot 100. To add to that momentum, he also featured on Spot'em Gold'em's Beatbox 2 remix, which climbed even higher to number 12 on the same chart. In less than a year since signing with Gucci, Pooh Shiesty had already broken into the top 15 of the world's most prestigious singles charts, an achievement many seasoned artists strive for, but few accomplish. His rapid rise didn't stop there. XXL named him part of their coveted freshman class, and Billboard honored him as their hip-hop Rookie of the Month. The entire machine was firing on all cylinders, and Shiesty was undeniably the engine driving it forward. Then, on February 5th, 2021, Shiesty Season, his debut mixtape, dropped. This 17-track project was stacked with heavy hitters, featuring appearances from Lil Durk, Gucci Mane himself, Big 30, 21 Savage, and more. And the response? It blew up. The album debuted at number 3 on the Billboard 200, pulling in a staggering 62,000 album equivalent units its first week. That isn't just a solid debut, that's a powerful statement, the kind every aspiring rapper dreams about, but many never come close to reaching. Gucci had clearly backed a winner, and Pooh Shiesty was delivering on every promise. But just as things were heating up, the story took a sharp turn. Back in October 2020, months before the mixtape's release, Shiesty was arrested in connection to a shooting incident that took place at the Landon Hotel in Bay Harbor Islands, Florida. Initially, he was released from custody, and for a while, things seemed to be moving forward. But as you'll see, this chapter was far from over, and the path ahead would prove more complicated than anyone could have predicted. Then, in June of 2021, the story took a dramatic turn. Shot Shiesty found himself back behind bars, this time linked to a violent incident that shook Miami-Dade County over Memorial Day weekend, a shooting at a local strip club. But that wasn't the end of it. Shortly afterward, federal prosecutors hit him with a formal indictment, charging him with 4 counts connected to a separate shooting that had happened months earlier in October 2020. According to the indictment, Shot Shiesty and his associates had arranged to meet 2 individuals to buy marijuana, codeine, and even sneakers. However, what was supposed to be a routine transaction quickly escalated when someone from Shiesty's crew pulled out a weapon, leading to 2 victims getting shot. Miraculously, both survived the attack. What makes this case truly remarkable, and almost surreal, is how investigators pieced together the evidence, mainly through the power of social media. In a twist that feels like it was lifted straight from a crime thriller, authorities linked Shiesty to the scene by matching a designer Louis Vuitton bag found abandoned in the parking lot of the Landon Hotel to one he had proudly shown off on his Instagram feed. But it didn't stop there. When they examined the $100 bills inside that bag, some of the serial numbers matched the ones visible in the close-up shots he had posted online. In essence, his own social media posts became a digital breadcrumb trail, placing him directly at the scene, at the heart of the investigation. There's an ironic twist in how what was meant to be a symbol of status and success ended up becoming critical evidence against him, a stark reminder of the double-edged sword of online fame. Throughout the rest of 2021 and into early 2022, the legal battle took many twists and turns. Eventually, in January 2022, Shiesty reached a deal, entering a guilty plea. By that point, the sprawling list of charges had been simplified, leaving just one significant count on the table: conspiracy to possess firearms to advance violent crimes and drug trafficking. As part of the plea agreement, prosecutors agreed to dismiss 3 other charges, one of which carried a possible life sentence. It was a critical move that changed the trajectory of the case. Then, on April 20th, 2022, the moment of reckoning arrived. U.S. District Judge Kevin Michael Moore delivered his sentence: 63 months in federal prison, over 5 years, and 3 years of supervised release afterward. Added to that was an order to pay $35,000 in restitution. After the court ruling, Shiesty's lawyer, Bradford Cohen, remarked on how his client stayed composed throughout the hearing, simply listening to their argument, expressing relief given how severe the potential penalties were initially. At this time, Shiesty was just 22 years old. His breakout momentum was undeniable. His debut project sliding up to number 3 on the Billboard 200 meant he was riding one of the most electrifying rookie waves in modern rap history. Yet, in the blink of an eye, it all came to a sudden halt. The album momentum stopped gathering steam. The exciting feature spots and collaborations came to a standstill. Any plans for a sophomore project, the critical project many artists rely on to solidify their place in the industry, were put on an indefinite pause. The future that once seemed so bright dimmed because of the choices made beyond the recording booth. But here's where the story takes a fascinating turn. While Gucci Mane was out of the spotlight for a bit, he made a bold and unexpected move that sent ripples through the music world. Around October 2024, Gucci dropped a video that caught everyone's attention, not just fans but industry insiders too. In it, he announced he was releasing nearly his entire roster of artists from his 1017 label, a decision driven by hard-headed business reasons tied to profit and loss. It was a major shakeup, signaling a fresh start or a shift in direction. But here's the kicker. Despite letting go of almost everyone, Gucci deliberately held on to 2 names: Fuggiano and, most importantly, Pooh Shiesty. Yes, Pooh Shiesty was still behind bars, with his release date estimated to be about 18 months away at that point. Yet Gucci openly expressed his commitment to him, keeping that door wide open. He even reiterated this loyalty in 2025 during an interview with TMZ, confirming that Shiesty was still signed to 1017 Records. For those who understand the music industry, that kind of long-term loyalty to an artist locked up on serious charges is far from common. Usually, when an artist goes away, labels move on quickly. They reorganize, replace, and the spotlight moves somewhere else. Artists coming back often find little to no support waiting for them. Gucci's decision to stand by Shiesty, to keep faith in him despite the circumstances, was a powerful statement, a rare blend of business sense mixed with genuine allegiance. And looking back, knowing what allegedly unfolded next, it makes that loyalty all the more striking, almost heartbreaking. Then, on October 6th, 2025, something unexpected happened. Pooh Shiesty was released early from federal prison. He had served roughly 3 years of his sentence, benefiting from the First Step Act, an important 2018 bipartisan reform that rewards inmates for good behavior and participation in programs by allowing them to reduce their time behind bars. Originally scheduled for release in April 2026, Shiesty's early freedom shaved about 6 months off his sentence, granting him a second chance sooner than expected. His attorney, Bradford Cohen, shared a heartfelt statement expressing pure joy over Shiesty's release, calling it the beginning of a new chapter. For the public and fans, it truly felt like the dawn of his comeback. Just a couple of months later, on December 12th, 2025, Pooh Shiesty made his grand return with the drop of FDO, his very first single after his time away. The track exploded onto the charts, debuting at number 22 on the prestigious Billboard Hot 100. Even more impressive, it rocketed to number 1 on Billboard's Hot R&B/hip-hop songs and Hot Rap Songs charts. Think about that for a moment. Returning after 3 years behind bars and hitting. Number 1 isn't just a decent return. It's a thunderous announcement that the fans have been waiting. The industry is paying attention, and the commercial power is still alive and kicking. It was the kind of moment that writes its own narrative, an artist's epic comeback story in real time. But, as with many great stories, there's more beneath the surface. That surge of momentum wasn't the whole picture. Behind the scenes, according to a federal criminal affidavit filed by FBI agent Brittany Garcia, Shiesty wasn't fully content with the terms of his contract at 1017 Records. There were tensions bubbling beneath that triumphant exterior, and public reports from outlets like Complex hinted that there were bigger moves in motion. Around this crucial time, connections involving Yo Gotti and his CMG label started to emerge, weaving themselves into this complicated tale. The stage was set for something far more layered than just a comeback. It was a drama unfolding at the crossroads of loyalty, contracts, and ambition. Here's where things turn intense. At the heart of this ordeal was Shiesty's potential move, an offer from a rival label that would have put him directly in competition with Gucci Mane, a legendary heavyweight in the southern rap scene. Now, this wasn't just about signing a new contract or switching teams like a regular business deal. No, this was steeped in history. You have two influential music moguls, Gotti and Gucci, each commanding powerful southern labels with rosters that overlapped and clashed. The tension between these two has simmered for years, complex and loaded with rivalry. So, when word got out that Shiesty might jump from 10 to 17, Gotti's label, to Gucci's CNG Records, it was more than just a contract negotiation. It was like a high-stakes chess game, filled with layers of loyalty, past grievances, and the shadows of old agreements signed long before Shiesty's star had fully risen. And here's where the timeline tightens. Prosecutors say that all the events on January 10th, 2026, didn't just happen by chance. They were triggered by these tangled contract frustrations and competing label pressures. The story, as it unfolds in federal court documents, paints a picture of a meeting that was supposed to be routine, but quickly spiraled into something far more alarming. Shiesty had arranged to sit down with Gucci Mane and a couple of others at a recording studio on Dallas Parkway to hash out the details of his contract with 1017 Records. Gucci, referred to only as RD in court papers, flew into Dallas on a Saturday afternoon with two other men, described simply as music industry professionals, expecting a straightforward business discussion. But what happened next sounds like pure cinematic drama. According to the affidavit, after the trio entered the studio, Shiesty pulled Gucci aside for a private talk in the recording room, along with Shiesty's father, Lontrell Sr., and another Memphis rapper known as Big 30. The private meeting quickly veered into dangerous territory. Prosecutors say it started as a contract conversation, but abruptly escalated when Shiesty allegedly brandished a black AK-style pistol, demanding Gucci sign contract termination papers. The label owner at first refused, but, faced with the threatening weapon, reportedly signed under duress. And it didn't stop there. Shiesty allegedly took Gucci's wedding ring, watch, earrings, and cash, adding a striking layer of personal violation to the mix. Meanwhile, suspense thickens outside that recording room door. While Gucci was trapped inside, the other defendants allegedly pulled weapons on the two remaining victims waiting nearby. One of those victims, identified only as MM in court filings, was choked from behind until almost losing consciousness. Then, in a brazen act, the assailants rifled through his belongings and took a Rolex watch, a Louis Vuitton bag, and more. What started as a supposedly professional meeting spiraled into a tense, violent confrontation, a moment loaded with betrayal, fear, and chaos that no one saw coming. Stolen items piled up as the chaos unfolded. One victim was even shoved onto a couch while his wallet and jewelry were snatched away right before his eyes. But the real tension skyrocketed when Big 30, according to prosecutors, not only played an active role but used his entire body to block the studio door, effectively trapping everyone inside. No one could leave, no one could escape. Imagine that feeling, being imprisoned behind a door, helpless, as things escalated around you. At some point during all this, the victims reportedly feared for their very lives, believing this terrifying event could take a deadly turn. Now, let's dive into the hardcore evidence that turned this case from a complicated dispute into something prosecutors could pinpoint with chilling precision. This is where digital footprints tell a story you've got to hear. Shiesty's ankle monitor, yes, the same one he was required to wear as part of his supervised release from a prior 2022 conviction, registered his presence at the studio on January 10th. This electronic monitoring device constantly tracked his whereabouts, pinging data back to federal authorities without fail. This wiped away any defense claiming he wasn't there. If you've ever wondered how strict these devices are, imagine you're wearing something that records your exact location every minute, every hour. A constant digital leash with no chance to say you were somewhere else. But the digital clues don't stop with the ankle bracelet. Cell phone records and license plate reader data woven together weave a damning narrative. Investigators confirmed that several of the defendants had traveled as a group from Memphis all the way to Dallas in the days leading up to that fateful incident. After the event, they stayed together at a Dallas hotel, all documented by data that paints a clear picture. This wasn't random individuals converging by chance. It was coordinated movement. On top of that, surveillance cameras from the studio itself and neighboring businesses captured critical moments, offering visual confirmation of who was where and when. Then there's the fingerprint evidence, a small but powerful piece of the puzzle. The complaint notes that prints recovered from everyday items inside the studio, including bright red plastic cups, linked multiple defendants to the location. It's a detail that might seem minor at first, but combined with digital, physical, and testimonial evidence, it's hard to ignore. And just when you think it couldn't get more revealing, prosecutors also highlighted social media posts uploaded by several defendants within hours and days after the incident. These posts allegedly flaunted large sums of cash and flashy jewelry, suspected to be loot from the robbery, adding a bold, almost reckless layer to their actions. But here's where the plot thickens with a level of calculated intent that's nothing short of chilling. The affidavit reveals that Lontrell Williams Sr., Shiesty's father, and another named defendant made a strategic stop at a Staples store just hours before that crucial meeting. According to investigators, this trip wasn't random. It's believed Lontrell printed out the contract release documents tied to the alleged extortion attempt right here. The implication? The paperwork for termination was drafted ahead of the meeting, indicating this wasn't some heat-of-the-moment confrontation. Instead, prosecutors argue the entire meeting was meticulously planned, a setup from the start. And now, let's turn the spotlight onto Big 30, because his role isn't just as a co-defendant tagging along, it's far more integral. Rodney Wright Jr., known professionally as Big 30, has been Shiesty's closest musical partner since their early independent days in Memphis. Their breakout project in 2019, Hell Night, was not just an album, it was the foundation that launched both their careers into the spotlight. Yet, prosecutors say Big 30's involvement in the Dallas incident went beyond mere presence. The affidavit states in chilling detail that he was the one who physically handed Shiesty the bag containing. Imagine a tense moment inside a recording studio. Gucci Mane caught on his phone, allegedly being coerced under intense pressure to sign a contract release. Reports say he even used his own body to barricade the studio door, desperate to prevent anyone from leaving. This wasn't just typical studio drama. When authorities arrested him, they discovered firearms stashed in his vehicle, adding a whole new layer to the unfolding story. For Gucci Mane, this was more than just a legal battle. It could shatter his career just as devastatingly as it did for Big 30 Shiesty. Fast forward to April 2026, the stakes soared when prosecutors made a bold move, pushing for Big 30 to be held in custody. Why? Because he was on the cusp of signing a lucrative 7-figure recording deal. But here's the twist. Instead of seeing that contract as a milestone that might stabilize his life, prosecutors framed it as a massive flight risk, essentially implying he could use the money and fame to vanish. Initially, a Tennessee judge set a $100,000 bond, offering a glimmer of hope, but Texas District Court Judge Ed Kinke quickly stepped in to halt that decision. The very contract that should have signaled success and new beginnings became ammunition in court, turned into a tool that prosecutors wielded against him in legal filings. What could have been the high point of his music career twisted into a symbol of suspicion and danger. Then, on April 2nd, 2026, the net tightened dramatically. Across the cities of Dallas, Memphis, and Nashville, law enforcement orchestrated a major sweep, arresting 8 out of 9 defendants connected to this sprawling case. The last suspect was still on the loose, heightening the tension and keeping the story very much alive. The U.S. Attorney's Office for the Northern District of Texas, led by Ryan Raybould, held a press conference that revealed the gravity of the situation. Raybould didn't hold back, labeling Shiesty as the mastermind behind the entire conspiracy. His description was straightforward yet chilling. Victims who came to Dallas expecting to conduct legitimate business were instead met with intimidation, violent threats, and firearms. By April 28, 2026, the case took an even more serious turn, with the unsealing of an 18-page indictment handed down by a federal grand jury. This comprehensive legal document charged all 9 defendants with a series of serious offenses. Count 1 accused them of conspiring to commit kidnapping over a span of almost 2 weeks in January. The following counts detail substantive kidnapping and extortion charges, including crimes committed with the help of others under aiding and abetting laws. Additionally, Count 5 targeted 4 co-defendants with transporting stolen goods across state lines, a serious federal violation. Prosecutors went further, seeking to seize every asset and dollar connected to the alleged crimes. The consequences were clear and severe. All 9 faced potential life sentences if convicted on the conspiracy charge alone. In early April, on the 8th and 9th, 2026, a detention hearing brought the drama into the courtroom. Before U.S. Magistrate Judge Renee Harris Tolliver in Dallas, both sides presented their cases publicly for the first time, setting the stage for a high-stakes legal face-off. The prosecution came armed with a compelling array of evidence: ankle monitor data that placed Shiesty right at the crime scene, a Staples receipt linked to his father, social media posts flaunting stolen jewelry, license plate reader records tracking the group's journey from Memphis to Dallas together, and forensic fingerprint evidence collected from the studio itself, each piece fitting together like a chilling puzzle aimed at building a tight narrative against the defendants. What complicates Shiesty's situation even further is that, at the very moment these serious allegations arose, he was already under the watchful eye of the court, actively breaching the terms of his supervised release stemming from a 2022 conviction. This isn't just a minor slip. It indicates a pattern of risky decisions piling up against him. Adding another layer to the gravity of the case, prosecutors highlighted that the robbery didn't just involve cash. They took Gucci Mane's personal belongings, including his wedding ring, watch, and earrings. These aren't just valuables, they carry deep personal and symbolic significance, suggesting a level of calculated disrespect and humiliation that's hard to chalk up to mere confusion or happenstance. On the flip side, the defense team has picked apart the prosecutorial story, zeroing in on several glaring gaps and inconsistencies. One major point is that, surprisingly, the FBI had not conducted direct interviews with Gucci Mane or the other alleged victims at the time of Shiesty's arrest. Instead, they relied entirely on statements collected by Dallas police right at the scene. This reliance creates a shaky foundation, almost like building a house on sand. Defense lawyers describe the entire case as a he said, she said situation, pointing to the fact that it took 3 months from the January incident before the arrest was made in April. They argue this delay undermines the urgency and credibility of the charges. Another critical piece the defense zeroed in on is the contract at the heart of the extortion claims. Prosecutors referenced a signed release contract from 1017 Records as their key evidence. However, not only had this document not been recovered or formally presented in court by the time of the detention hearing, but there was also no video footage of the signing event. Without that tangible proof or first-hand FBI interviews with the primary victim, the defense sees major openings to challenge the prosecution's narrative. These holes in the evidence are exactly the kind of weaknesses they will be pressing hard during the trial. During the hearing, Shiesty himself, known technically as Williams, was repeatedly caught shaking his head, visibly frustrated, but Judge Tolliver was firm and unyielding. The judge ruled that despite these arguments, Shiesty would remain in custody, pointing out plainly, "I find that the weight of the evidence against you is strong." Shortly after, in mid-April, Shiesty was moved to the Kaufman County Jail. By the end of that month, he made a formal request for new legal representation, which the court granted without resistance. Fast forward to early May 2026. Shiesty entered a plea of not guilty on all charges, standing firmly against the allegations. The wheels of justice turned quickly after that. By mid-May, a federal trial date was set for July 6, 2026 in Dallas, accompanied by a critical pretrial conference scheduled for July 1st. At this stage, the case remains in pretrial limbo, with a total of 9 defendants all facing identical charges. It's important to remember, everyone is presumed innocent until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, a cornerstone of the justice system. Now, let's get real about the stakes as we approach that July court date. Federal kidnapping convictions rank among the most severe punishments in the entire U.S. criminal code. Under 18 U.S.C. Section 1201, a conviction could mean a life sentence, especially if prosecutors can prove that victims weren't released unharmed. In fact, there's a mandatory minimum sentence of 20 years if that condition is met. Layered on top of this, Shiesty's previous troubles with supervised release violations from his 2022 Florida conviction could result in additional consequences. This means the potential sentence awaiting him could be stacked and severely impactful, painting a very high-stakes picture as the trial date looms ever closer. The sentences would stack up one after the other, running consecutively on top of whatever penalties the court had already handed down. Not side by side with them, but completely added on. For Big 30, the situation is strikingly similar. If the defense manages to sow enough reasonable doubt, especially pointing to the missing contract document, the delayed arrest, and the government's failure to have the FBI interview the primary victim directly, then an acquittal or a hung jury becomes a procedural possibility. However, it's important to remember that federal conviction rates in the United States typically hover above 85%. When a case is supported by hard-hitting evidence like electronic monitoring data, fingerprints, surveillance footage, and tapped social media activity, it's truly an uphill battle to overcome these facts at trial. So, even though the government's case has some noticeable gaps and inconsistencies, it also comes with numerous independent layers of documented proof that hold considerable weight in court. This is the complex and challenging legal reality that Shiesty's new defense team will be stepping into when they officially take over on July 6th. Now, shifting gears, let's delve into the public response that sparked a wildfire of online speculation and buzz. Gucci Mane's reply to all of this, a response that is as intriguing as it is subtle. Contrary to what many might expect, Gucci Mane didn't call a press conference. He didn't drop a formal video statement on YouTube, nor did he personally release any surveillance footage that allegedly existed. Instead, what he chose to do was more in line with his artistic roots. He released a new song. On April 10th, 2026, Gucci Mane dropped a track titled Crash Dummy, produced by none other than Zetavan. The song's lyrics delve deeply into the emotional turmoil of being betrayed by someone close, someone from your inner circle. But Gucci refrained from naming Shiesty outright. However, the references were crystal clear to anyone following the story closely. The verses included vivid lines about stepping into a room and sensing betrayal closing in, about people smiling in your face only to stab you behind your back, and a biting line that warned against biting the hand that feeds you. Most striking of all was a line that roughly translated to, "After all I sacrificed for you, you were still signed to me." That final lyric hit in a profound way because it wasn't just a raw emotional outburst. It was a razor-sharp nod to the documented business relationship that, according to court documents and reports, formed the very heart of the entire controversy. Crash Dummy became the focal point, where the online narrative solidified and spread like wildfire. A flood of commentary channels picked up the track instantly, sharing clips and dissecting the lyrics. Social media captions began framing Gucci as if he had spilled all the secrets or dropped the tape, creating the false impression that this was more than a song. The word tape started circulating as a catch-all term, referring interchangeably to the song and the concept of damning video evidence. This is where things blurred. Gucci didn't release any actual footage. What he did was drop a diss track. And yet, the two ideas became tangled in the online frenzy, blurring fact and speculation. This fusion of the criminal complaint, detention hearing details, a newly released diss track, and half a decade's worth of professional history all got condensed into one electrifying, attention-grabbing sentence. This catchy headline zoomed through the internet at lightning speed, faster than anyone could pause to unpack the real details behind it. In that whirlwind, the nuance and complexity of the case were lost, replaced by a viral story that was part music release, part courtroom drama, and all online sensation. This isn't just a story about the internet misreading someone or jumping to conclusions. It's something way deeper, more complex. The saga of Pooh Shiesty is fundamentally a story about mentorship. And if you know hip-hop culture, you know that dynamic carries serious weight. When a legend like Gucci Mane gives a cosign, it's not just a casual business move, it's a powerful statement. It means he's staking his reputation, putting his own credibility on the line, and effectively telling the whole industry, this person is worth your attention, they're worth your investment, bet on them. Gucci held on to Shiesty tightly, keeping him on the 10-17 label even when nearly every other artist was dropped during tough times. He went as far as publicly defending their partnership, standing by him even while Shiesty was behind bars serving time. That's loyalty. But, and here's where things get really complicated, if the allegations hold any truth, the first big move Shiesty made after getting out was to fly to Dallas and put a gun in. The face of this very same man they had a contract dispute with. If that's true, it's not just a serious legal issue, it's a complete betrayal of what a cosign symbolizes. It flips the entire trust and respect on its head. The timing, though, is what truly makes this story staggering. Shiesty was released from federal prison in October 2025 after serving time for a gun conspiracy charge. He was supposed to be on home confinement, complete with an ankle monitor and clear rules, no new offenses, and no firearms. Every condition he skirted, allegedly breaking every one of these rules within just 3 months of his release. Consider this. His comeback single was climbing the charts, even hitting #1. The industry had started rolling out the red carpet, ready to welcome him back to the spotlight, eager for what could have been a powerful second act. Rarely does an artist pull off a sophomore chapter that outshines their first, but Shiesty's numbers and momentum hinted strongly at that possibility. Yet, everything now lies in limbo, on hold as he faces a federal kidnapping charge that carries the threat of life behind bars. Meanwhile, Gucci Mane and the entire 1017 record situation is wrapped up in legal uncertainty. The contract Shiesty allegedly tried to force his way out of, it remains tangled in court battles. Beyond just one man and one career, this raises bigger questions for the whole hip-hop community, especially for labels and potential new signings watching closely. A mentor's legacy, after all, is tied intimately to the success and behavior of the artists they champion. When a bet on someone goes sideways like this, it creates ripples that no clever lyric or lawsuit can easily smooth over. Hip-hop has always been about balancing the persona an artist presents with the real-life choices they make. And with stories like this, that tension feels more visible than ever before. Pusha T's persona was forged from raw, unfiltered authenticity, a symbol of fearless identity. The balaclava, the gritty Memphis-inspired aggression, the refusal to ever water down the edges of his music or image. These elements weren't just aesthetics. They were a declaration of who he was. But here's the truth. There's a stark contrast between the persona you see on stage and screen, the carefully crafted artwork that sells records, and the reality of a person's life behind closed doors. Between the glitz of streaming charts and the cold, unforgiving realm of real-world consequences, there exists a vast gulf. When those two worlds collide in a federal courtroom, it becomes clear that the stakes are far higher than any rap battle or online drama could convey. This story, however, is far from over. The trial, set to begin in July 2026, promises to peel back every layer of this tangled saga. The defense team has already pointed out significant gaps and inconsistencies in the government's case, sparking hope for their side. Pooh Shiesty has firmly pleaded not guilty, standing his ground as the legal drama unfolds. Meanwhile, Big 30 and the other defendants face their own individual legal battles, each thread adding more complexity to an already intricate narrative. Until a jury steps in to weigh every shred of evidence, the real truth of what unfolded on January 10th in that Dallas recording studio remains shrouded, governed by the slow, methodical pace of the justice system. A timeline that moves far beyond the fleeting opinions and hot takes that flooded the internet mere days after the arrest. What is undeniable at this moment, though, is the heartbreaking fallout from one of the most compelling mentor-protege relationships to emerge from Southern rap in recent years. The bond between Gucci Mane and Pooh Shiesty. Once a shining example of mentorship and promise, this partnership has shattered in the most intense, public, and tragic way imaginable. Here's a man, Gucci Mane, who stood as a guiding figure for a younger rapper under his label, now facing the staggering reality of that same artist allegedly pointing a firearm at him in a Dallas studio. The response? Not a carefully crafted press statement or a social media rant, but a raw, unfiltered rap song, the timeless language of hip-hop, delivering bars and beats that tell a story no headline ever could. It conveys the silence that followed, the tension in the room, and the moment when smiles disappeared. Now, all eyes turn toward July. When this case goes before a jury, every piece of evidence, ankle monitor data, surveillance footage, social media activity, even the mundane details like a Staples receipt, will be scrutinized under a federal spotlight. The verdict that emerges will close the chapter on one of the most astonishing and complex tales in rap history. Rest assured, we'll be here to break down each development as it unfolds. So, if you're not subscribed yet, now is the perfect moment. We want to hear from you. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. What do you truly believe happened in that studio? And what does this story reveal about the price of loyalty in an industry where alliances can be as fragile as they are fierce? Stay tuned, because this isn't just another headline. This is a saga that's still being written, and every page matters. We'll see you in the next one.